energy and resource to fight for, care for and campaign for people so affected. Thank you.
Carolyn Harris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And may I firstly congratulate my dear friend, the member for Rhondda, for securing today's debate. Every year, an estimated 350,000 people are admitted to hospital in the UK as a direct result of an acquired brain injury. And to put that figure into perspective, that's one person every 90 seconds. And whether this is due to illness, accident or some other form of trauma, the severity of their injury and consequently the rehabilitation they require varies considerably. For those with severe brain injuries, the long-term issues can be vast, affecting their personality, relationships and behaviour. It's quite obvious that early diagnosis and better access to timely and effective rehabilitation will greatly improve a patient's chance of eventually regaining their independence. But it's essential that we also look at the wider long-term complications of acquired brain injury and particularly at the associated problems that patients face. At a recent session of the Gambling Related Harm APPG, I met George. Back in 2009, George was a typical 23-year-old young man with a bright future. He had a decent job, a supported family and a strong network of friends. It was on a night out with these friends that his life changed forever. In an unprovoked attack outside the nightclub where he'd been spending the evening, George was punched with such force that he suffered lasting trauma to the left side of his brain. After spending several weeks in a coma and months in hospital, George was left with significant psychological, emotional, cognitive, behavioural and physical impairments. As a result of the severity of his injuries and the complexity of his ongoing disabilities, George was eventually awarded significant compensation, but this only led further to his problems. A friend introduced George to online gambling, something he had no previous interest in, but he now had time and money available to him, and George very quickly became addicted, making frequent and significant deposits with a wide variety of online gambling platforms. The result is that George has lost all of his compensation, as well as money he obtained by taking out additional loans and credit cards. At one point, he gambled and lost, this is breathtaking, £67,000 in just 40 minutes. He is now at least £15,000 in debt and with no income has no hope of meeting these liabilities. But George is not alone. Researchers identified that brain injury survivors are 27% more likely to develop problem gambling or addiction than the general population. And that risk is particularly found among people with frontal lobe damage. Hedgeway, the Brain Injury Association, who celebrate their 40th anniversary this year, are doing a fantastic job supporting people like George. But they have highlighted that much more needs to be done within the gambling industry to protect these vulnerable individuals. Survivors of a brain injury are prone to impulsive behaviour, lacking in reasoning skills and often socially isolated. Add to this in some cases being suddenly in possession of a large sum of money that they are not necessarily capable of controlling independently, and it's not difficult to see how quickly and easily that addiction can develop. Now, the gambling industry needs to offer more and to work alongside brain injury specialists to provide support for individuals. The Gambling Commission have said they will be strengthening requirements of licences to better identify customers and make self-exclusion schemes more effective. But this is not alone. This is not enough on its own. Brain injury survivors like George have already suffered so much, their bright futures indefinitely stolen from them because of the trauma or illness they have experienced. They continue to suffer daily from the lasting effects of their injury, as well as the associated anxiety and emotional difficulties. From an early stage in George's addiction, the gambling platforms were made aware of his vulnerability. But despite this knowledge, they continue to allow him to gamble on their sites, robbing him of his much-needed compensation, which was intended to give him a stress-free existence after his injury. Brain injury survivors are vulnerable And at the moment, the gambling industry appears to be exploiting that vulnerability. But it's not just about gambling. The consequences of brain injury affect so many people in so many ways, and we have to start looking more closely at this issue. We need better diagnosis, better care, rehabilitation support, and I'm very pleased to be a Vice Chair of the APPG on this subject, which my honourable friend, the Member for Rhondda, has established and chairs with such great passion. Congratulations.
Hear, hear.